He's a big game hunter, and we're not, say, at the live event in Atlanta yet, right? That this is leading to. We are at a stage where Spirit thrives and is in his comfort zone. So, yeah, I would not be surprised at an upset, and I am hoping for a 2-1 either way.
All right, well, in the top right corner of the map, our blue Terran player to kick things off today is going to be Spirit.
And in the bottom left-hand side, it is Reynor. Yo, boy.
Yeah, definitely kind of, you know, it's really cool to see Spirit doing great, but I'd love to see Reynor. I know he won Gamers 8 not long ago, but he just, again, but I don't want to say he bombed out. Like, he had a close series with Spirit last time around, but Reynor's the kind of guy we expect to be seeing competing for these European regionals. And I think he comes in wanting to absolutely make a statement today. You know, going up against the guy that knocked him out last time. I don't think he's going to be doing much messing around, Cats.
I don't know. I was looking at his drones, and he had 3 on the same patch, for example. You know, when there were 2 patches that were. So that's what I'm saying. It's like if we were in a live event, I'm sure he's just so tuned in that stuff like that never happens. But I think his Aligu like even doesn't reflect how strong of a player he is when he turns up. Right, and I really hope that he does turn up in these type of events. But historically, right, it's people like Clem that really turn up in these offline events, and Reynor doesn't tend to do too well even in the team leagues and stuff like that. So I don't know what it is. I think it really is that he prepares for those live events so much more, and yeah, I hope that he will prove me wrong here.
Yeah, he really kind of levels up to reach his peak once he gets to that sort of you know, the live event. Like, he almost like plans his training schedule around like, hey, I'm going to be at my very best at this week of StarCraft, maybe 2 weeks, and then I'm going to like simmer off a little bit. Like, he really seems to benefit from taking the breaks, but he knows when to start playing to make sure he's at his best when it counts the most.
Or when he has something to prove, also he turns up, right? Like when he announces, like, you know, like, I bombed out, so like now I'm going to show everyone what I'm about, then I believe that he's going to show up. Right now, I don't know in what state of mind he is, but we'll see what happens here. It's just a very standard opening to start things off, so nothing out of the ordinary at all.
Yep, just CC first from Spirit, but that is on a larger map, really nothing too crazy and not much Reynor can do about it now. It's very hard to reactionarily punish a command center first, so Spirit will pretty much just get away with this. He will be off and away to his nice strong economy to start off with, and just a few Zerglings going to linger around from Reynor here and there, just going to take a couple different positions. As, yeah, we wait to kind of see what Spirit wants to do. TVZ has been such an interesting matchup because we've, for years and years, seen TVZ be all about reacted Hellions, and we're seeing an all-time low of reacted Hellions, and that allows for builds like this from Reynor. Super fast Baneling Nest going down. That's way earlier than defensive. This is absolutely him looking to Bane Bust his way to a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be wild. And I love what he was doing with the Overlord as well. He didn't have it straight on the pillar. That was not a mistake. It's that on this map, the Overlord doesn't have full range of vision to the right side where the supply depot is being placed right now for Spirit, if it is on the pillar. So the Reaper could have snuck in through the corner, or snuck out rather. So he had it a little bit offset and then repositions it. So he is aware that Spirit has not left his base, and yeah, he's looking to surprise here.
Oh, and he gets the catch on the Reaper as well. So now Spirit does not see anything else. He doesn't see any extra lings being made. The Banes are already morphing. The only good news from Spirit is he is at least building reacted Hellions, a Banshee too. If there's a way to be safe, that would be it. If there's a way to be safe, at least without seeing it, as he does lose a few lings there as well.
Yeah, and they get as bruised as can be. That was the perfect Hellion shot. So those links are gonna have to be morphed into Banelings if he wants to make good use of them, and he hasn't yet. So maybe he'll just bunch them up. I mean, they'll be half health by the time they arrive. They might get one shot, but he's going for it right now. No time for Banelings, it seems. So let's see what happens here.
Yep, just going to start wandering those first Banelings forward, and now it's time for Spirit to start reacting. 4 Hellions on this ramp will pull up to the high ground.
Good reaction.
Yeah, force these Banelings to make sure that they are going to have to bust through, and they will do that. There's a lot of SCVs for grabs on the low ground. More Banes still available in the main. Banshee pops out, does not get any target fire on these Banelings in the main base either, and that means that we get a lot more kills. The Hellions out on the map, well, they came back and they got surrounded immediately. 17 workers so far. That equalizes the damage up until this point.
Yep, I mean, there's still stuff going on here. A lot of the links are trying to close in on the Hellions. The Banshee is doing what it can, but it's not the ideal unit for the scenario. Spirit dropping a little bit in supply, but in terms of, I mean, if he can just stave off this aggression, then he will be fine, as he does have the double command centers, the double orbitals. So I think he's a-okay. I think this game might continue.
Yeah, Reynor's just going to try and grab a couple more workers. 36 workers killed. I mean, it was just the Banshees. Obviously, they don't do well with Lings, but you're kind of right. You know, double orbital can at least rebuild to some extent. He'll have the Banshees to go harass with as well. And obviously, Reynor invested into this fully. So Reynor's worker count is obviously now still pretty good. 20 ahead isn't bad. If he can stave off the aggression of the Banshees, he probably is in a good lead. But let's see if he can stave off the aggression of the Banshees. And also, just remember that his tech will be very late as well. Not that Spirit has any real way right now to go and punish that.
Yeah, I mean, the Banshees are going to try for sure, and Reynor shouldn't really look for too much more aggression. That is links that are not drones, but, you know, they could continue to surprise at the natural. So Spirit needs to be careful to have enough of a substantial Hellion count before the Banshees can move out, and then maybe the Banshees can go and do something. I would almost like Cloak, but I guess he doesn't have really the gas income for it.
I think.
Or he has already Beast. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so that's going to give him some more options at least, although left finishing from Reynor, so he should have an Overseer to be able to move around detection-wise. He already has a Spore set up on the main, third, and natural. And he's just going to immediately drop the Spire. I kind of love the Spire in this situation. You know, mutas are very good when the Terran is underprepared. They really snowball quickly. So if the Terran can't get enough up against those mutas, there's a very real scenario where these mutas not only shut down the Banshees and the Hellions, but then there's just not going to be anything to shut the mutas down in return when they go across the map.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is the Banshees are a freebie almost. So it's kind of like, you know, you're recouping some big part of the investment into the Spire tech by just going Muta, knowing that your opponent has Banshees. And really, Spirit doesn't want to be, you know, spreading himself too thin right now. He is on recovery mode himself, and he's doing an okay job of catching up. Already 36 workers. He was down at 12 just recently. And with the triple orbital, again, I think that this still can be a game, but definitely in favor of Reynor, I would say, at the moment.
Yeah, obviously just maintaining the 20 worker lead is a big thing. You know, we're not catching back up as Spirit, and Reynor's not been underproducing units either. He's got enough Lings just to catch these Hellions, get rid of most of them on the way into the natural. A few of them survive. We'll have a little bit of one-shot potential here, but only for a couple of hits. It's still a pretty quick cleanup. There's 4 kills. Obviously, it helps Spirit, but you're still 15 workers ahead as Reynor, so you're still in that kind of range of safety. And, yeah, some lost mining time. The Banshees will try and poke on the right side cats, but there'll be a couple kills. The Queens are very well prepared, though.
Yeah, and they're on a timer as well because the Muta are now in production. And I really love what Reynor did there, because he produced extra workers thinking that Spirit was likely to kind of go in and attack, right? It's not, or I'm sorry, extra units. It's not like Reynor was trying to prepare an attack himself with just circlings on the other side. It's that he sees with his nicely set up perimeter of overlords that the Hellions are coming in, and he probably assesses the situation very quickly, thinks, okay, like those are actually enough Hellions, that I don't have enough circlings, and produces circlings. But not only that, but on the hatchery that the Hellions are coming into, so they pop up kind of like in the perfect location and time to stave off that aggression, and Spirit doesn't find too much.
On the middle list then, as they will set up, there are missile turrets being established, but obviously that's all well and good for your main, your natural, but then how do you push out toward this third base? How do you start utilizing your workers that go beyond that 2-base saturation? The meters are almost always going to find some opening here, and even just knocking down this depot, that's scary, cats, because now Ling run-bys potentially become more of a factor, and you're already playing off of a lower unit count here as Spirit, so not being able to actually move through, and even if he loses the upgrades, like, these are all terrible things for him.
Absolutely, and he wasn't set up for Muta at all, right? Like, we see tanks in production, like at this stage against Muta, you probably would prefer to have mines. The tanks are really not going to do much for you until you have a lot of units, and right now you're trapped in your base against your 4-base opponent, so let's see if Spirit can even hold this off. Nicely tucked in between the minerals, and the tank is going to be exposed as well to the Muta and free for the taking if he wants it. So Reynor should have that as well. Extra links now pouring into the natural. And Spirit in a world of hurt. This game is just, not going too well for him.
Yeah, it was a good idea from Reynor. You know, there was a lack of Marines. He focused to the Marines as well, knowing that the moment those Marines go down, the mutas will get rid of the tanks. And now Reynor controls the natural. He's going to turn back onto those upgrades, which he might be able to deny +1 attack. He's been working on that for a while. He contaminated, so it was behind the +1 armor. So that's an upgrade that Spirit is not going to get back in the game with. Reynor pretty committed, no upgrades of his own on the way. He really wanted to do some damage here, and obviously, he finds 8 SCVs, maybe not the most damage, but I do feel like denying the attack upgrade is a big thing. The mutas are still committing through. Reynor believes he has too many air units versus not enough Marines. And yeah, he is absolutely just going to get rid of every single Marine. There's nothing you can do at this point for the Terran. It's pretty much just checkmate.
Yeah, absolutely not. And it's not like you want to switch into mines at this stage either, because your tech lab is on the factory, right? So you would produce one at a time. It would be a little bit of a hassle. It would take too long. So I don't blame Spirit for continuing on the tank production. But yeah, Reynor beautifully capitalized, and unlucky for Spirit as well that his transition was such. Like after the Banshees and whatnot, he just didn't smell the Muta at all.
Yeah, no, it was rough. I think in the end, just took a little bit too much damage. It's one of those scenarios where that amount of work damage is like, oh, surely he's dead. But then sometimes with Terran, it's really like not the case. But then they need to also be out on the map with something, right? Like they need the Hellions to hit and get rid of a few drones, or to force a few more units, or the Banshees to be straight across. But because he lost so many units as well, he really didn't have the safety net to, like you say, get the Banshees straight across the map. So instead, he had to keep them at home until he had the Hellions, and then when he finally attacked, it was already just a little too late. Reynor had opened up the gap even further and really preserved the worker difference, which then obviously on top of that, the Muta's going unscouted is pretty much just going to seal the deal on that one. And that is going to be Reynor 1-0 against Spirit. Something to prove today, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that is exactly how I felt, right? Is, okay, like you still have 3 orbitals, you have Banshees. I didn't even know about the Cloak. You have Cloak, my god, like, yeah, there's probably some potential for counter-aggression, but difficult to make that decision, and Reynor was clearly on top of that potential by making links and just having them on the side of the map of Spirit, ready to run into the natural again, should the Banshee show up on his side. So just great play from Reynor, and yeah, he's going to take the victory, well-deserved.
Hard Lad will be map number 2, so into our second game of this best of 3. Of course, everything's still best of 3 here in week 2 of the ESL Regionals. Best of 5s being reserved for them playoff matches, as we do have ourselves on the top left-hand side, the player that opens up with the first map win of the day, the Red Zerg from Basilisk, Reynor.
Can he get some energy from Halloween? It is Spirit.
Like that guy. If only they played yesterday,
yeah, One day late.
Yeah,
what does already say? 1 day late and $1 short, yeah.
Yeah. Well, can't have it all your way, I suppose. Not all the time. As we get ourselves up and rolling in game number 2. See what is going to come to the table here. A couple drones coming out, the SCV on the way. And Spirit, obviously, a bit of a shorter map, hard led, so probably not. I was going to say probably not going to go CC first, but he actually is just going to go for it again. He just sort of feels like, hey, I can do this every game. Don't think Reynor's going to do anything to blindly counter me. Definitely not if I do it twice in a row.
Yeah, a little bit of a beast, especially because it is a short map, right? So you would expect that if he's going to switch it up, it's here. I would love to see a game 3 where Reynor just like 12 pulls him or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Really punish this kid for believing he can just CC first against me all the time. Yeah, well, he definitely went punishing in the end last time. Like I say, it's funny because the meta so much at the moment is to not go react to Hellions. It feels like these early Bane busts has been, really annoying to deal with, because you just, Hellions are the best thing you can have, because once the Banes are busted, you can actually then still just deal with the Lings fairly well, which we kind of saw. It was unfortunate you had 2 Hellions on the map. They got caught. It definitely wasn't the best case scenario. If you had all 6 Hellions at home, he really has such a good time. You just hold behind that wall off. It's probably very difficult for the Lings to get in. So yeah, it's kind of funny that Reynor obviously tries to abuse the meta. Still makes it work anyway. The Bane Burst is still good. Just definitely wasn't quite the build he was hoping to be up against when it came down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're going up against something like the 2 racks and 2 medevacs or something like that, then like the medevacs are going to be a little bit late for that sort of timing, and then you really can exploit the situation. But in this case, you're completely right. If all Hellions had been there, Spirit had a good position as well. Like, he was preemptively positioned for something like this. I'm not saying that he read into it. I'm just saying it's ingrained into his play. So he was very quick to just take 1 step back and close the wall. Like, he had that ability, and it looked good. Like, even leaving the SCVs at the natural, that was perfect. Like, Reynor needed more than just the SCVs at the natural, and he knew it. So he had to go after the units. He had to bust through the main, and he was able to, and yeah, did enough damage.
Let's see what the playstyle will be game 2, because again, we definitely don't expect Reynor to just whack down a Baneling Nest for round 2 here. Spirit may very well just say, you know what, I kind of liked what I was doing. I didn't really get to do it properly, so let's just kind of go for round 2. Like, if he does the same thing, I'm not worried. I feel like he won't, and if he does, I know what to adjust to be able to deal with it, so yeah, I kind of like this approach. Factory is going to go to the reactor. We probably are just going to see Hellions once again, and then the starport is on the way up on the side of Spirit.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised for a tech lap into Banshees again, because I mean that is a pretty safe opener, especially when you go for the third CC this early, right? So it accounts for roaches and that sort of aggression a little bit better than it does for Circlings, at least on the Banshee side of things. So I'm sure Spirit will look to be a little bit more cautious with his Hellions this time around. And an extremely late link speed is started for Reynor right now.
Yep, just getting very late here, which is something the Hellions maybe could punish. Obviously, if you go for this later link speed, if the Terran can figure that out, they can dive in with those Hellions and perhaps find more success than usual because the slow Lings are not going to be that good at blocking. So let's see if he finds that opportunity. Even the first two Hellions could do a lot in these scenarios, as he is thinking about it, but the Queens are in position so far, not going to get the kind of the bravery to kind of make that dive in.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it would have taken, right? It's a difficult assessment to make. Obviously, you're going up against one of the best Circ players to ever play this game, and they probably have links behind there, and they probably have speed at this stage, but that's not the case, unfortunately, for Spirit, because if he had taken that dive, he's very likely to take a few drones. As it stands now, link speed is almost completed, and Reynor has so many more queens on the back of just, you know, waiting to gather the gas and to invest into link speed, that it's going to be very difficult to breach him. So we kind of completely shifted gears on the side of Reynor from a very aggressive opening to a very macro-focused opening.
Yeah, shifting gears is a great way to say it, because it is just a completely different game, and not just different like, oh, I'm gonna build roaches this time, and it just feels different, you know? Like last game we were over to screaming and scash out, and Spirit was already basically dead. This time, we've really seen nothing happen at all. A single Overlord went down, and beyond that, Spirit set up with his Hellions, he's setting up with the Banshees. This is all the setup he wanted last time that he never got to show us. So let's see how he can do as he pokes around the left side. The Queens are going to fire up a couple shots on the Hellions there. Just keep them deflected back. This is the dance that you see early in these TVZs. The Hellions want to hunt down that creep. The Queens want to keep them out of mineral lines and then push forward for some of that creep spread as well. So that's the back and forth we'll see for the next few minutes here until a bit more of a serious attack gets onto the map or the Banshees get involved.
Yeah, and if you're Reynor, it's a little bit more forward than back. I mean, you have 10 queens. That's absurd. And that's just going to allow him to, you know, minimize the amount of units that he makes. Already invested late into those, and he's just trying to explode in terms of drone count and base count and creep spread. And yeah, completely different game. So Spirit has a lot to adjust to. At least he's alive now.
Yep, no, at least you're alive. It's definitely, I mean, especially Spirit loves to be in those later game situations, right? He loves to play for the macro game as well, so you know he wants to just kind of push for as much of that as he possibly can. And in this case, he's definitely going to get a shot at that as 1-1 missile upgrades coming through. He's going to get a few drones. The Banshees actually find themselves free and a cancelled Spore Crawler, second cancelled Spore Crawler, so that's a pretty nice damage over in the main base. And again, not overcommitted with the Banshees, happy to sit on the edge, chip, and just do a little bit of damage here and there. As the Queens do not get the Banshee on the way out down the left side. Good position from Reynor, just couldn't quite get enough shots off.
Yeah, and Reynor kind of stopped droning a little bit just to get, you know, his upgrades going, to get Roach speed going as well, and he is going into that Roach tech. I feel like he's kind of done droning, perhaps. I feel like this might be a massive attack on his part now.
Yep, 1-1 Roaches is obviously not an unheard of thing, especially if your opponent invests into a lot of those Hellions early. These are things that will not help you against the Roaches when the attack comes around. More important than ever before that Spirit kept those Banshees alive, even just 2 instead of 1, because any damage that they can provide freely during a 1-1 Roach attack is really going to add up. It's really going to be one of those things that goes a long way.
It's not going to be free, though. Look at the map. Like, it's just not going to be free. The Queens, he has 10 of them, and look at the creep spread. I mean, Reynor has been planning for this from the beginning. This is part of his strategy, is to have the Queens at the doorstep. I'm almost sure he's going to be breaking the other rocks as well to breach into that very open third, and the Queens are going to be right behind those Roaches, ready to deal with the Banshees.
Even a Nidus, that really is like a step on top of the aggression that I was expecting. So a Nidus to reinforce across the map more quickly. Yeah, you're right. These rocks are going to go down. We are going to open up this area, and you're right. The creep spread is literally encroaching on top of Spirit's base, which when he's opened reacted Hellions is kind of a ridiculous statement to be making.
It really is. I mean, Spirit is well entrenched here with 3 tanks at least. Let's see if that's going to be enough. I wouldn't mind the SCVs being pulled off the line if need be. So let's see how this dance ends up. One of the tanks is going to get biled down, but that's going to cost Reynor some units. Spirit maybe going too far forward beyond the tank fire that he needs to be protecting and using to his advantage. SCVs have not yet been pulled. Now some of them try to repair the bunker, but to no avail. And now I think you still have to pull the SCVs. I mean, Spirit is doing a good job. Reynor is taking a lot of fire from those tanks.
Yeah, he really is, man. It's such a complicated fight as we do have the Nidus in the main base got denied. Well, it actually went up, it did not get denied, but then it didn't get anything out. We had Lings in the natural there, a main course of what a lot of SCVs went down to. I think you're right, pulling the SCVs is almost just a guaranteed thing you're meant to do against this kind of a build, because all you have to do is survive the first wave, and it becomes so much easier when you have better numbers against it after. But yeah, he did not pull them for a long time. We're going to lose another siege tank now. The Banshee's finally going to start going down. The Queens will get rid of both of those. No, the Queen's turned around, so that doesn't quite happen. But now we do have the Nidus up in the main, and this time units actually pop out of it.
Yeah, very, very scary. And yeah, the SCV pool is particularly good because there's no Zerglings, right? Zerglings add damage in such small amounts that SCVs don't get overkilled, whereas Roaches can definitely overkill SCVs. So it's pretty nice to just absorb a lot of that damage indirectly. Still, Spirit looking okay if he can hold, but can he hold? The Bile doesn't actually connect. The tank maybe gets one more shot off. Again, the SCVs are pulled off the line. The medevacs are nearly out of energy except for one, and the Banshee has somehow also stayed alive. So this game is still going.
Now we're just going to Nidus up on the high ground, so Reynor looking to maybe reinforce across here more quickly. He's got Lings ready to dive in once more. There's a second tank from Spirit just now ready. That's kind of what he needs. The more tank fire he gets, the better off he may be. Also, moments away from 2-2 for Spirit, which is, again, a big break point where it just becomes that much more powerful for him to really be able to fight against this Roach Ravager Link Force. In we go. That's going to be the big moment. Corrosive Files will come down onto the first tank. Hits the medevac as we go. Reynor backs away. We're actually going to chase forward as Spirit.
Nice.
He thinks he has enough. He identifies the opportunity, and he is going to get a lot.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Also target firing the Ravagers. They're going to be a little bit flimsier and twice as expensive. Also a lot of utility against the tanks and gas that Reynor doesn't really have to remake. So this looks pretty good for Spirit. All of a sudden now he's going to push Reynor out of here. And a little bit of an overcommitment perhaps for Reynor, but difficult to blame him because it felt to me like the Marines were a little bit out of position. In the way that they were too close to the tanks. You want the Marines a little bit further forward usually, but maybe that was just confidence and a little bit of a bait from Spirit, and it does seem to be working out at the moment. Again, beautiful focus firing onto the Ravagers there in the back with small groups of Marines, and I think he's doing it, Wardicho.
Yes, he is. GG! Spirit is going to take it to a 1-1, and we are going to go game 3 for the first match of the day, cats. We're going to start going the distance to some of these games. Lovely stuff. That was a... yeah, very interesting, because obviously Reynor invested into the Nidus, and the Nidus went up in the main, so Spirit messed up. He made the mistake, right? Like, he didn't deny the Nidus, but that almost worked against Reynor, because he almost expected Spirit to send something over there so he could attack heavily in the front. When the Nidus went up and nothing came out of it, well, Spirit's gamble kind of paid off, because then he had everything in the front to keep fighting. That made it a better trade. Then the next time around, the Nidus just wasn't as effective. The few Lings that got on the natural just didn't do enough, and yeah, he didn't quite get rid of the units at the front soon enough, and Spirit was able to build up. You get to 2-2 and everything, and it just becomes such a powerful position. It's almost impossible to stop at that point.
Yeah, and it's so many props to Spirit as well, in the sense that, for example, like, he didn't push his Banshees forward to die to the Queens. Instead, he managed to keep one alive. That aided with a second Nidus as well on cleanup. And yeah, like a little bit of gambles here and there. I think that Reynor could have unloaded a lot more units out of that Nidus, and that might have looked a lot more dangerous. But like you were saying, he was expecting a little bit bigger of a reaction from Spirit. He might have got it if that Banshee had fallen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That could have been maybe the deal breaker as we ourselves into the lobby. Looks as though Spirit just needs a moment or so once he is ready. And as he is right now, we're going to dive ourselves into game 3, which is Stellaris. This map, cats, the kind of map you'd like. You know, there's lots of acceleration zones. It's a little bit small. It feels like there's a lot of funky stuff you can do on this kind of map. How you been liking it?
Well, the acceleration zones are really cool, and I think it's a concept that we should employ more, especially around those corners that are usually so, you know, difficult to get around. So it feels good in that way, but nothing too crazy in the sense that there's like no purple gases and gold bases, which is more of my more of my jam.
That's your jam. That's what you really vibe with. All right, well,
that is where I really vibe. Yeah, I was watching Bly the other day. I was like, you know what? He's gonna do a proxy hatch into a purple gas. And then I thought he was going to do a Ravager all-in, and he didn't. He went Muta. He's just wild.
Bly is something else, man. We're going to see some Bly later today, so you can get excited about that. It's in the bottom left.
Oh, baby.
Get excited right now for our Red Zerg looking to take this series down from Basilisk. It is Reynor.
And on top right-hand side, it is also looking to take the series down for Psystorm Spirit.
So good to see Spirit just doing so well. It's been really fun to watch him lately, and yeah, I mean, he hasn't he just hasn't slowed down. You know, we saw him really do kind of well last season in the regionals. We've been building him up for a long time. We've been saying, hey, look, we really think Spirit's gonna be this guy to break through, and he never did. And people are like, guys, stop saying it. You know, like you've been saying this for like 2-3 years. We have been, and then he's finally just taken that final step forward, and now he is much more competitive with the players like Reynor and Clems on a more consistent basis. He's consistently performing that bit better. He's taken on the top Koreans in online events repeatedly as well. Like, it's just amazing to see the step forward he's taken this past year, and to see that he finally hit the stride, which I think a lot of us saw him having the potential to do, like I say, even years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the case because he is kind of like a slow and steady person to progress, right? Like he is the type of player that will focus on those details and like do things methodically time and time again. And he has his own style, and when you have your own style and you prefer macro and you have your own philosophy, then it takes a little bit longer to develop. It takes a little bit longer to iterate, especially if you don't have, the hive mind that is saying like, oh no, this is the right way to play. And so in that sense, it's always been that Spirit is actively getting better and better. And now, like you said, when he reaches this stage at which he's at, he also finds consistency because he's not getting better at trickery. He's not getting better at cheesing. Like he's just getting better at solid play, and it's there in the cheesiness. I think that he will find his ultimate form when he starts diversifying more.
And here is a little bit of just switch up, Obviously, CC first, CC first, then boom. Now we're going to play the 2 Rax Reaper at the front. It's not overly aggressive. We see only a 3rd Reaper, no 4th Reaper, it seems. Even getting a bunker for safety as well. He's just a little bit afraid of what this opening means from Reynor because it was a pool first. But it's a perfect time because the pool first does nothing at all. The Reapers deal with this. They get quite a few Lings already. And now he's set up to continue to harass. And Reynor, with the investment into the Lings not doing anything, is not quite able to afford a 3rd hatch. And now it's going to be very difficult to get one.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of a mind game here for Spirit after baiting that with the prospect of a potentially CC first yet again, and that catches a lot of those links out on the map as well. So yeah, this game is looking already pretty good for him, I would say.
Yep. Yeah, I love where he's at, and I love that he's just dropping down a 3rd CC as well. It's a good start. He's going to get his stim pack started up already. He's just going to get himself fully set back at home, and yeah, he can really just control things with these Reapers, and there's not much Reynor can do apart from eventually try and figure out how he's going to get a 3rd, but until he gets link speed, it's going to be really difficult to sneak a drone out unless Spirit kind of messes up with these Reapers, which is possible. It's difficult to stay on top of them all of the time. The Queens get a few more shots there, which maybe frees up a bit of space. Creep Team are coming out will let the Creep Queen step further forward as well, so that might be the thing. We just double check, and here is Spirit checking the base. Hasn't gone down yet. Nope, so far he hasn't been able to stop it. Now...
saw the drone, I think, yeah.
Corona is going to get over there, but yeah, you see it. So even if you put it down here, these Reapers can do some good damage, and the Queens are going to take a little while to get over. This hatchery might still be in trouble, Cats.
Yeah, for sure. I'm surprised that Spirit doesn't drop grenades. That's actually a little bit stronger damage than just attacking. So might have gotten the cancel a little bit earlier, but maybe he was concerned about the Queen's positioning and trying to bounce them off with the grenades later on.
I think that's probably it. I think he knew he would get it because the grenades would buy him more time to stand there than they would have bought, like speeding it up, I guess, by grenades in the hatchery. So yeah, I think he was just looking to grenade the Queens back. In the end, that wasn't necessary. Gets the cancel either way. 3rd hatch rebuilds on the low ground now from Reynor. As though a single Reaper went into scout, just double check. There's not a roach roaring or anything, right? I'm just making sure I'm not about to die. He is going to reinvest in a bunker on the natural again. Like, he's a little bit terrified that this has gone almost just too well for him. He's like, hey, it's almost too good to believe, so let's not believe it. Let's just make sure I'm not going to die. That does obviously close the gap on Reynor's disadvantage.
Yeah, and I like that you use the word terrified because he is going up against Reynor. I feel like if he did this against someone else, it would be like confidence. And maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know how he feels in this matchup. He has played Reynor so very many times that maybe he feels like he's in a position to play to not lose right now.
Yeah, no, that's a very good way of putting it. He has got stim already done. He salvages the bunker again, so clearly just double making sure I'm not going to die at this timing. Okay, get most of my money back, reinvest into more units. Medivac's are about to pop. He's about to be aggressive on the map, and this is where we see where the Spirit's early game is good enough to just roll over Reynor. I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit terrified for Reynor. 18 Lings and 7 Queens on the map. Melee upgrades on the way, but will not be done in time to deal with this attack either. I mean, we need some more links coming up, but Reynor is only getting 6 at the moment. Like, these Marines, once the medevacs get here, genuinely terrifying.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, given the state of the game at this stage, absolutely. I mean, Reynor had a slow start, Spirit had everything that he wanted, and now he's here. He also has those extra Reapers. The medevacs are now gonna arrive, and we can expect a stim right now. There it goes. The grenades are still very valuable against the Queens. Already one of them used, but yeah, I mean, the Queens, only one of them with energy for transfuse, soon to be 2. And the Marines are staved off for the time being.
Yeah, the only thing I felt like that was that it kind of felt like there was a moment he stepped forward but didn't attack, and if he just kept stepping, I felt like a couple of Queens that had gone down, that maybe would have been the snowball moment. Now he steps back. Now there's enough links here, so this first medevac play is going to fall apart as he flies back in. Oh, Reynor is going to grab himself a full medevac, and Spirit gives up a lot of his momentum.
A lot of his momentum. I mean, that's so massive, right? Like, that's so much damage output, and now it's gone. So yeah, that sucks. Reynor is gonna be able to take a 4th on the back of this as well, and Spirit is gonna be hard pressed to justify any further aggression at the moment. Yeah, and yet he's gonna go for it.
He's gonna go for it, but just imagine he has 10 more army supply right now. Then he's leading in army supply. It is just so much scarier. He's gonna pull back. He's just really realized you just can't do that after losing army supply freely like that.
Yeah.
As he does have a couple AFK SCVs as well. I feel like in general he's been a little bit messed up, like not perfect over here. Maybe just a little bit shakier than he should be.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, that was a really uncharacteristic F2 on the medevacs, and now he has a little bit of a squad on the other side, which I like this better, right? Like, you have your 2 medevacs for safeguarding. Maybe you can pick off the 4th. Not gonna be able to this time around, but this is kind of like what he's constrained to do. I don't think he's gonna kill Reynor anytime soon, so just slow down the game, get to your you know, massive 200 army with ghosts and planetary fortresses and liberators, and take it there, and maybe that's where you win.
What's amazing for Reynor is that he's survived all of this without a single Baneling being made. These are the first Banelings coming up now, just as Bane speed is being done. It just means you're a little bit greedier, essentially, right? Like, you're just doing it with the bare minimum, and that's obviously just going to give you even more of an edge as now this game goes on. If your opponent didn't find the opening before now, well, cool on them, because, well, yeah, that was the best possible chance that they had, as we are not getting anything done here on the left side. Gonna go fighting a Queen, but transfusions are good, and the Queens will hold off the drop once more. And Reynor's now halfway to 2-2 against no 2-2 start of Spirit.
Yeah, and you mentioned that indirectly, right? Like, that's where his gas has been going instead of the Banelings. So the fact that he managed to delay the Banelings for this long gives him that edge in this mid game. We'll see if he plans on using it, as also there's an infestation pit. So clearly he has plans for later.
I'm just going to be seeing the Marines come through. A couple of Banelings getting picked away up. 2-2 upgrades all, like I said, closing in. Spirit is just going to lift off. He has some very good micro when it comes to Marines and target firing Banelings, but just doesn't have enough to necessarily sit here and show that for us at the moment, so we'll just be pulling back instead. And again, this is going to be a game where Reynor has very good creep spread on the map, which means he can really go wherever he wants and start to kind of fight wherever he wants. Speed zone helps him get in range, and he just Spirit picks up in time to avoid the second Baneling connection there.
Yeah, exactly. One of them did connect, so all of those guys are going to be in the red, but what matters is that they survive. Now they have medevacs to heal them up. Reynor going for Baneling Burrow as well. Daring as well around the edges and the corners, as that is going to be pathing that is going to be used from Spirit, right? So it's clever in some way and scary in the way that it's going to be difficult to, or more difficult to pay attention quickly to connect those with those Banelings. So very, very cool from Reynor, as he is now transitioning into a Hive as well as a Spire. So maybe Broodlords.
Yeah, maybe just looking towards Broodlord. Spirit is in the process of making tanks, and if he's just going to set up on tanks and sit here and, you know, sit back, and, you know, take a chance to get a Broods. If you can hit with Broods early and Spirit's very reliant on tanks, Broods are just going to delete you, because the tanks are going to really hurt themselves against the Broodlords, and then you don't really have much of an army. Ghost Academy coming up, but being on a high Ghost account at the first wave of Broodlords here is probably unlikely. We'll have a few, but not enough to go sniping down a flock of Broods.
Yeah, absolutely not. And yeah, Spirit really likes this tank style where he staves off enough of the aggression that maybe he can counter attack and, you know, get sieged up and be a little bit nasty with a very deep defense. But like you were saying, against Broodlords, that's not going to pan out too well. And against Ling Bane, you kind of forfeit all of the map control as well, right? Whereas with Mines, you have a little bit more control, a little bit more vision, and it can be a little bit easier to play in this mid game. So Spirit really betting on his late game, but Reynor seems to be well aware that that's what's happening here.
Yeah, it makes sense though, right? I mean, we've seen Spirit do this 1,000 times before. He loves his late game.
Yeah.
You know, especially if he loses momentum, this is his absolute fallback, right? Just, hey, I can play a good late game. I don't need to keep on pressuring, where Clem might try and still find ways with like a lot of drops. And not that Spirit isn't dropping, but he's not being overly aggressive. Like, he drops in here, he's not going to go deep. We'll just lift up, loses, you know, a Marine. You know, Clem might be a bit more aggressive. He might go further into the Zerg territory as he picks up here. And that's kind of the difference. Spirit really is just saying, no, I just want to kind of see the later game. I want to see the macro. That's where his confidence absolutely exudes from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we see it right in the investment in the command centers, for example, on the minimap. There's loads of big squares. Those are orbital commands. So he's really setting up. Whereas Clem would have invested into army earlier, and that would net him a little bit more map control, at least pushing the creep on one side or another. So it's definitely different approaches. It's not even an issue of competence or anything like that. It's just what they choose to do, and Spirit's still doing an okay job here with whatever he can, and he does have a pretty good path towards the south, right? Creep-wise and just position-wise right here.
Yeah, no, the ability to kind of push on down bottom side is pretty amazing, but of course that opens up the other pathways for Reynor, and he's going to come straight through. Ling Bane going to crash on up, a couple of tanks for the picking. Banes might want to try and aim for mineral line, although that's very well protected mineral lines, as we'll find ourselves a couple of ghost kills. These Lings will start to go down, but you know what? Reynor's rich enough to replace those, so he's able to take those trades initially. Obviously, you got to be careful how much you want to give up. Resources lost is a very important tool that we track. But yeah, there's just so many more Lings on the way, and you can just basically do this forever right now.
Yeah, quite clearly. I mean, like, is larva a limitation for this man? Like, he has 21 larva after he just made 90-something Lings. Jeez, like, that is not a play that I ever have available to me. It's like 100 Lings and having larva extra. Jesus.
Yep, Inject's gone wild as we have ourselves the couple queens dropped here. Ling Bane, Viper on the upper side. It is going to be Reynor to, again, really just hit the bases of Spirit. Seems to be his goal. He's going to say, yeah, you know what, you take my bottom side base if you want it. He is going to focus on breaking this left side, upper left side base. And he has got Banes that are going to keep rolling through as well. He's already on top of some CCs. And he is, yeah, just going to bust straight through the natural. Units there all clumped up, tanks included, so the Banes actually find good value throughout. And this is a lot of SCVs going down, Cats. 22 workers dead. And that is, like I say, just some great damage from Reynor. He can rebuild so quickly, and Spirit can rebuild too, but Zerg is kind of made to rebuild right off the bat and go once again.
Yeah, that is the thing for Reynor. This has to continue to be a 1-2 punch. He has to continue to try to punch through, and it's going to be more and more circlings by the looks of it. But Spirit, 54 workers, don't let that deceive you, right? He's near maxed with 56 workers. That means his army is going to get pretty massive as well. So if any of these attacks don't go as well as Reynor was planning, there's always the opportunity for counterattack from Spirit. And while that was all going on, he did manage to kill this base that we were looking at just briefly. And the base on the south as well. So he is kind of trying to keep the economy somewhat even and not letting Reynor basically steal his base, which is really essential if you're gonna go to that hyper late game.
Yeah, this base top and this base bottom are actually the same base. The fact Reynor tries to take both is cheeky. He is essentially taking one base of Spirit, and yeah, you can't let that happen unless you're trading extremely efficiently, which at this point 2,500 resources difference is not that amount. So you need to keep Reynor off that base, and maybe eventually you don't need to mine it as a Terran, because maybe later on the efficiency kind of gets there. You just can't let your opponent mine it, because that's essentially like a net 2 base difference of how much you mine versus how much the Zerg mines is. Things are in here, and a couple of these fights now definitely seemed a little bit less effective from Reynor. That's why the efficiency picks up from the Terran player. That's where Spirit will be enjoying this game.
Yeah, for sure. And I just checked through all of the bases of Reynor just to see if any of them were kind of like oversaturated, because he does have 97 workers and he did lose 2 bases, but still managed to have the presence of mind to not oversaturate any of his bases. Like, there was like, I think 17 out of 16 in one base, and that was it. But a big attack from Reynor now coming into the natural yet again. So this is the 1-2 punch that we were talking about. Banelings are not going to try to breach into the main. It's going to cost them 5 to get past the supply depots. More SCVs going down. That orbital command is going to have to be lifted off. And there's not enough units in production here. Spirit's going to have to pull back in order to clear this, but the damage has been done.
Yep, as you can see, our Lings Continuing through, a lot more SCVs going down. I mean, obviously we're going to lose a lot of these lings in the end, but good damage dealt. Soul Spirit down, as Reynor will have to, again, just rebuild and go again. You know, this is the time to really strike. You hit a lot of economy. Spirit's only able to mine whatever's coming in or able to build off of what he's coming in with income right now. This is where the game can change up big time.
Yeah, but at the same time, Spirit again killed 2 bases, or at least this, I believe the south one was going up as well. So he killed 2 bases while that was all going on. So props to him for staying in the game, because this means that if Reynor remaxes and he goes for yet another one of these big waves and it backfires, if Spirit has the units in the right position, he is still very much in this game. He's 200-200 with a massive army supply lead.
Yep, army supply is a big thing for him here. It means he can split his army a little bit as well if needed. Finds these lings running on the top side. Reynor again trying to stop the Terran from mining out these bases, which he needs to have economy from. But again, it's a lot of lings going down, right? Just running in, finding units. They're not going to trade well there. The Ultra Cavern comes up, and that's obviously, you know, usually a good thing to kind of headbutt with, but I don't feel like it's going to make much difference right now against against a Terran that's well set up, plenty of ghosts on the map. I'm not sure these Ultras are going to suddenly be like a big answer or so, as you have Liberators only over here. Not going to do too much. Banes will bust this base down, but the SCVs are out of there, so preserving a lot of this. And if the Banes keep chasing, that ain't going to be pretty. And honestly, even as the Banes run away, they're taking some more shots. These are expensive trades for Reynor, and they're adding up in favor of Spirit.
Yeah, and Spirit was kind of anticipating a move like this, like a frontal attack with all of the units, because he had his units clumped up, the tank's not even sieged, so he was just in a neutral position ready to react to one side or the other. And as I was looking at that happening, I was thinking, why don't you split your army and just like stave off the aggression? But it seems like he had the correct read, whereas I thought Reynor's going to continue to maybe poke in 2 places at once or something like that, like he was doing a little bit. Spirit was expecting the big attack, and that is where his advantage lied. His army was just massive, and Reynor could not headbutt into it.
And yeah, denying this base on the bottom side, super big as well, just being able to get over there and just again make sure that one of these 2 bases, top and bottom, is not mining for the Zerg. That is big steps towards finding success here in this Game 3. Winner goes to the playoffs, by the way. Obviously, yes, maybe you will make it there anyway as Reynor, but getting there first place in the group pretty much, it's a pretty awesome feeling for Spirit, as Lingbane Ultra is going to go diving forward again, seeing these Ultras come out for the first time. We'll see if they start to make a difference, but I honestly believe the setup is here from Spirit to deal with these.
It really looks like it. There's so many ghosts as well. I mean, these Banelings really need to find those ghosts and connect onto them in a clump, or else they're gonna do a little bit too much, I think. The Vipers as well have a little bit of a counter in the EMP and snipes. So, yeah, I mean, it's anyone's game. It's going to come down to the spell casting, the positioning, and Reynor looks to continue to be the aggressor because he has this massive bank, whereas Spirit is continuing to try to just stave off the aggression. And if he can hold just one more time comfortably, maybe this is the time. Let's see what happens as he is going in now. Reynor will get rid of the Planetary Fortress on the low ground yet again. Going up the high ground is going to be very difficult, and Spirit does a great job also of lifting off the CCs. That's going to mean more space for his units to fan out, and he does an incredible job. No Banelings connect. It felt like towards the tail end of that engagement. Of course, Reynor does continue to stave off the economy of Spirit, but Spirit again snipes a base while this is all going down. I mean, what an incredible game we're watching.
Yep, Spirit's doing everything right, man. Like, the start of that fight was quite explosive for Reynor, but then Spirit gets back and he finds value as he snipes off the Ultras, he spreads against those Banes. And like you say, not just the top base, but now he counters to the bottom base as well. So he is absolutely guaranteeing that Reynor's economy is not endless. 83 drones. At this point in time, Cats are going to start being oversaturated on bases because they just have nowhere to go to.
Absolutely, and Spirit can so easily retake those bases because, you know, he's Spirit, he's gonna have extra command centers, so that's not a PF anymore, that's an orbital command, but who cares? He is at 62 workers against the 82 of Reynor. I almost want to think that that favors him at this stage in time. His army is still a little bit bigger, and last time around, I mean, we saw a similar situation with Reynor having an extra 2,000 minerals in the bank and an extra 1,500 gas in the bank, and So that means, you know, this goes south one more time for Reynor, and the game is Spirit's to lose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Reynor's got to be kind of thinking right now, like, man, I need to find something extra. He's not getting enough done. He's not knocking down enough economy while keeping his own economy up to trade the way that he's trading. So here we go. Going to go in from the left side, from the bottom as well. So trying to come in from all angles. Liberators are going to siege up kind of during this. But the Terran pre-spread is amazing. Ghosts lining up snipes all over the place. The Ultras are not getting very far. The Banelings just do not connect, and Reynor has to rebuild big time. That's 100 lings immediately in reproduction.
Yep, and the bank continues to get drained. Spirit on the other side, the medevac didn't find anything. I love that we both just look at the top and bottom bases right away to see if they died during this, because this just happened so many times this game, and this time around Spirit is ready to claim this base for himself. This could open up things though for Reynor, as that's gonna for the first time it feels like spread Spirit's army out, or there's gonna be openings for Reynor to attack into potentially the main and siege the production, for example.
Yeah, no, definitely some opportunities for things to happen there. As Ling's going to go diving through. The bio is going to get jumped on for just a moment here. And we do have ourselves these Lings continuing up toward the high ground. Sensor tower going to get knocked down. This is the opening, right? As Spirit gets drawn even further to the bottom. There's entry to the natural, and all this space he's worked on earlier in the game is now much more accessible to him. So he's kind of had that opened up earlier, and now is the time to take advantage as Spirit tries to go elsewhere. Spirit is maxed, as is Reynor here, and Spirit is going to take a few steps forward.
Yeah, a few steps forward, but it's not easy to take steps here, as that maybe looking for a neural parasite onto the ghosts here is Reynor before that turret completes. If he can get that, he can EMP the ghosts, and if he can EMP the ghosts, there's no never mind. Scratch that story.
Yeah, scratch that.
But yeah, for Spirit, the other thing, Guardicho, I think, is that he hasn't taken his triangle third yet, so spreading towards the bottom is really dangerous. And here's the move that we've been talking about, is with Reynor identifying that you're on the bottom half of the map now, so I have an opening into the natural. However, with no banelings here and 2 tanks on the high ground, it's gonna be a little bit costly for Reynor. Still, he breaches and he gets to siege the production, just like we were talking about.
Yep, Spirit is going to get back there. At least the depots and the tanks bought some time, but the problem is every time Reynor does this, he's probably going to access more easily, more quickly, and he's going to find even more damage most likely. So it's going to be one of those things you have to try and stay on top of here as Spirit throughout. As we lose one engineering bay, the Lings are looking for a corner to burrow in, just force another scan. Spirit's on top of it, but now we dive on the bottom side as well. I don't think there's any ghosts here, so this Bioforce just has to pull back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this base is super dead, right? Like, when I was looking at the camera in the main, I'm like, well, there's no way Reynor doesn't go to the natural now, because you just showed all of the ghosts and even the air army, which is a little bit of a hey, I'm freaking out a little bit type move, right? It's like, these units don't need to be here. It's only Zerglings. You could have just pulled back like a pocket of, like, say 20 Marines with a few medevacs, and that would have been plenty to deal with just Zerglings in the main. But when Reynor sees, oh, all the ghosts are here, oh, the Liberators are here, right? Then they're not on the bottom, so he very easily repositions and takes that very important base.
And Lev's going to siege up on the main, just trying to stop the Lings running straight through again. This is the biggest issue, I think, for Spirit, just the fact that his top side is so exposed. These Lings go forward, but there's units there. Reynor took a while to pull back. Thought Spirit might even get a little bit more out of that than he actually did in the end, as he will just pull away again. Still just sits there, says, let's play this long, let's play this late if we need to. Resources lost is about a 9k difference. It's been hovering around 9 to 10k for a little while, so the last few trades have not been bad for Reynor. As long as he's trading somewhat equally with the Terran from here on out, he is now mining this 12 o'clock that took him a long time to really establish. Spirit is no longer being able to deny that every time. That's a big step in the right direction for our Basilisk Zerg.
Absolutely, and Broodlords now on the way as well. 8 of them are being morphed somewhere on the map, and this army of Reynor, it doesn't look like the flimsy only Ling Bane army that it once was. Now it's full of Ultras and Broodlords to join it. So if Reynor wants to go for a super punch, he can also morph most of those Lings into Banelings and look to breach, and Festers are also on the field. So things are looking pretty difficult for Spirit. We might have one last standoff in the bottom side of the map, and if he can somehow hold this next attack from Reynor, then we can see the game continue and stabilize. But right now, all cards on the side of the Italian.
Well, the one thing that Reynor has to do is still fight this army, right? Which is exactly why Neurals like this are kind of cool, although he only hit 2 ghosts with that EMP, so that wasn't actually too big of a deal for once. I kind of love what Spirit's doing. He's saying, you know what, it's not worth it anymore over here, right? Let's relocate my production down to the bottom. Let's play a different corner of the map than what I was before, because I've got a base to protect over here. And just keep on wearing you thin. Realistically, this is where Reynor says, cool, you're actually giving up on this place. Let's take this triangular third of yours. If he can mine off of that, that's essentially going to gain him the same advantage as what we were talking about with the 12 o'clock versus the 6 o'clock earlier.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit mined out, so he's not going to get full advantage out of that, but it's probably enough, right? Like you said, it's been pretty stable at 10k difference, the resources lost. Now, actually, just less than that, right? Like less than 9k, so it's actually been in favor of Reynor for the last 5 to 10 minutes, I would say,
Yeah.
of this game, and maybe 5 minutes. But yeah, he's getting ready for the big attack, and it's all on Spirit right now. If he can hold this off and still retain enough army to stave off the aggression of Reynor with the extra 7,000 resources that he has in the bank, then there's a chance. But instead, it's going to be Reynor breaching further forward. Kills a PF, which doesn't really do anything for him, other than open up that path if he wants to maybe go for a bigger surround or something like that. But yeah, actually not a bad moment for Spirit there.
Nope, not bad at all. There's a couple of Broods now on the way out, and I love that. Spirit's army. Is it ready to deal with the Broods? Well, I guess we'll find out right now. He has some Vikings. There's some spores. Parasite bombs go down. Have to split those Vikings away. Which he does manage to do. He's obviously got snipes available if he gets the right chance to use them. And yeah, Reynor's still trying to break through the top. Reynor is running low on gas cats, so you know, rebuilding is becoming more and more of a kind of spam lings and hope they can do something on the map than actually really being able to re-add tech units. So anything lost for him might start to become more of an issue, as Spirit is still getting chipped away at on this right-hand side.
Yeah, and with this number of medevacs, if that's not dwindled down on the side of Spirit, then Lynx are going to be just perpetually ineffective against the army in a head-to-head engagement. So it's looking all right. I'm not even sure what Reynor is looking to do with this ultra flank, other than, I guess, just continue to try to deny that base for as long as possible. But Spirit's going to be mostly happy turtling in the bottom right-hand side, as now the engagement is taking place. Finally, snipes go down on the Broodlords. A few of them are going to fall. The Broodlords are still finding damage, especially via tank splash. And there's unfortunately for Spirit, very bruised up Vikings that he would really benefit from repairing.
Oh, a little biostim fort here finds a Infesta as they try and chase down those ultras. Reynor rebuilding 80 lings, and I do think that's a lot of just what he can afford right now. 300 gas in the bank. He has access to about 3,000 gas on that topside base, so he can still build tech units. It's just really limited by how quickly he mines the gas for it. And again, I still think this triangular base of Spirit that once used to be is something that Reynor will eventually realize, hey, maybe I should take that. Maybe he doesn't realize just how many minerals are there right now. He's obviously very preoccupied on this bottom side, as he has a 30 army supply lead now, and just spell casting like this is going to slowly drain Spirit's resources. As, yeah, he's taking even more splash.
Yes, indeed. It's looking very, very difficult for Spirit right now, and Reynor wants to keep up the pressure. I agree with you. The other avenue, maybe instead of making links, you could make queens, take that third base, and, you know, just go deeper into the late game. At the moment, only 3 queens, but they're not even preoccupied at all with injecting, as Spirit is trying to move forward. There's a lot of Broodlords, my friend, and now the Infestor's also trying to join the fray. Beautiful EMPs on the side of Spirit, but is that going to be enough, as now the links get involved as well? And yeah, I mean, that was really good for Reynor. He can still max out on whatever he wants right now, and maybe look to end the game.
Yep, I mean, Spirit's army supply just keeps dropping. He can't really rebuild much. He's trying to go into Blue Flame and some Hellbats. You can see that the Parasite bombs are just draining the air units from Spirit, and so he only has a couple of Vikings left. And as he tries to dive forward here with these ghosts, it's just not going to look good. We see the fungal growth dropping down, and Reynor can just continue to fight. This base starts to drop, and Reynor played a very slow, patient game. Knew he couldn't go take the win all at once at any point, and just eventually force Spirit into essentially a checkmate in this corner, right? Like, Spirit doing a lot of things right, but never quite had the move to just shut Reynor down off of one additional base that he probably needed.
Yeah, for me, the moment where Spirit lost this game was when he pulled his entire army to deal with a Ling Rambai in the main. That, you know, it was very apparent that this was going to happen. I think he should have foreseen that it was coming. He left 2 tanks there, so it's not like he was completely unprepared. But yeah, I mean, upon the breach, you have to evaluate the units. You have to say that Surgings, I can handle that with a bunch of Marines and Medevacs, and not bring the Ghosts and Liberators, because that's when he lost, I think, all of the momentum that he had remaining.
Yeah, absolutely. GG is called. Reynor is going to make it to the playoffs here in the European Regionals.